Expired.
Mr. Speaker.
Not Aaron Gilmore.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me enormous pleasure to stand and talk about the voodoo we just heard from the opposition over there. The voodoo that we've actually seen today, we actually have a plan. It's called the Budget 2011. And many Mr. Speaker, the big difference between us and them is we're going to spend $45 billion less than them. I mean, we're going to spend it in a different and better and cleverer way, Mr. Speaker. And what are the people saying out there as a response to Mr. English's third budget today? Well, the commentators in the Herald, Audrey Young gave it 6 out of 10. That's not bad, Mr. Speaker. I thought that's not bad. John Armstrong, that great Tory, gave us 6 out of 10. Fran O'Sullivan, who the opposition loved to quote time and time again, gave us 7.5 out of 10, Mr. Speaker. I think that's pretty good, given the economic times we're in, Mr. Speaker. Do you see, one of the interesting things, this budget for me puts in $8.8 billion to rebuild Christchurch. Most of that money, I hope, to be spent on my side of town in the eastern suburbs, Mr. Speaker. A lot of the money is going to be spent on rebuilding our roads, rebuilding our water supplies, rebuilding our schools, and importantly the homes. The thousands of homes up and down the parts of eastern Christchurch that are ruined, including my brother's, my mother's, and in part my own. Mr. Speaker, one of the interesting things also in this budget we've got is about the focus on KiwiSaver. KiwiSaver grows to $60 billion in 10 years, Mr. Speaker, due to the subsidies and the input that's going through and the savings that will occur. $60 billion, Mr. Speaker, and that's a great thing. The incentives are still in place for people to save, and people are saving. People are still joining up KiwiSaver at $20,000 a month, Mr. Speaker. We heard from Mr. Nash just before about this ironic idea that we need to invest more in crazy things. Well, look, one of the interesting things happening, people are saving more. The whole purpose of the tax switch was to reduce consumption and increase savings. That's what we need to do, Mr. Speaker. That's what this bill actually helps encourage, and that's what the budget does. It puts in place a reduced savings rate, an increased savings rate. Savings have gone up, debt servicing costs have come down, Mr. Speaker, and that's got to be a good thing. You see, Mr. Speaker, we heard from Mr. Nash that 75% of New Zealanders earn below the average wage. Well, that includes kids and the retired, Mr. Speaker. I mean, last time I've seen Labor didn't have a policy at sending children out to work, but maybe they do, given they've got a turnover tax policy as well. Send them off to the mines in many ways. We heard from Mr. Nash saying that ECE in Napier had been cut and had no money. Well, it's got $1.7 million floating around in bank accounts, as I've seen. Also, the Canterbury Western Kindergarten Association has got even more money floating around. We don't think it's appropriate that hard-working taxpayers should pay money for kindergarten associations to bolster their bank accounts. We think they should use the money they've got first, in the most sensible possible way, Mr. Speaker. And that's what you do in tough economic times. You look at what's in your bank account, you look what you've got in the cupboard, and you look at spending it in a more sensible and appropriate way. And that's what Budget 2011 does. It reprioritises a whole lot of things. It puts in place a lot of plans to spend our money in a more sensible way. Puts in place a plan to invest tens of billions in dollars in new infrastructure and new assets, exactly the things we want to do. It reduces our debt levels, puts the economy on a sustainable fashion. It grows jobs. Mr. Speaker, what more could you want? Thank you very much.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Party vote. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
58 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
42 votes opposed.
Green Party.
9 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
5 votes in favour.
Māori Party.
4 votes in favour.
Progressive.
1 vote opposed.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Honourable Chris Carter.
1 vote opposed.
Hone Harawira.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 68, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to.
Taxation Annual Rates and Budget Measures Bill, first reading.
The Taxation Annual Rates and Budget Measures Bill is set down for second reading forthwith.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Peter Dunn.